So, a guy that commented under a previous video of mine had some questions. And so the video that he commented under was a video I did called, She Hooked Up with Someone Else While You Were Broken Up. What do you do? And in that video, I basically talk about how if a woman's hooking up with somebody else while you guys are broken up, you guys are broken up, there were no commitments there, she could technically do whatever she wanted to. And so if you're trying to bring it up later like it was a problem, again, the reality was you guys weren't together. So his question wants me to really dive more into depth about that particular subject and a few other questions he has as it pertains to that, all right? So we're going to get into that. As always, guys, if you want your question answered on one of these shows, you can go to the website, click on the Contact tab, and write me. Also, if you want one-on-one coaching, click on the Coaching tab. All right, let's get into his question. So he says, I just watched your video. He said, can you do a part 2 video, like maybe go into depth with it? When is it okay to hook up with someone else during the break? How soon after a break would that be cool? How would it affect the relationship if you do get back together with that person? And how could hooking up be a deep thing to just give to the next guy that's only known you for a couple of weeks versus the guy that you've been with, and how it would affect him? So I'm going to go over each of these questions individually to give my thoughts and opinions, obviously based on my experience and just based on my analyzing of the dating game in general, all right? So to his first question, when is it okay to hook up with someone else during a break? Well, the answer to that question is whenever you want to, because you guys are broken up. Now, what most guys do is they hear we should break up and just hear the break part, meaning it's just a break. There's a chance that I have a shot at getting back with her later, so it's totally fine. So on the off chance then that you do get back with her later, you show up and your butt hurt when you hear that she hooked up with somebody else, because as far as your brain was considering it, you were just on a break. Breaks are breakups. So if you hear a woman ever say we should take a break, that is a break up. That means that for the time being, you two are not together with each other, and that you do not have to then therefore be faithful to each other, because if you guys hook up with other people, you're not being faithful because you're not together. The word breakup means there's no contract there that indicates that you two have to look out for the other person's feelings or not do the things physically you want to do with other people, because it's a breakup. There's no commitment. You're not together, all right? So you can technically do it whenever you want to. I think where the emotions get involved is either a guy will hear that his ex hooked up with somebody really soon, or a lot of times women will hear that a guy was able to hook up with somebody else, and the first thought is like, how could they do that? Did it mean that our relationship meant nothing? And that's all ego. That's all the ego saying that I should have been more important to this person to the point where they wouldn't want to do anything with anybody else because I was just the greatest love of their life and I was so fantastic that they're never going to get over me. And that is not a realistic way to have your brain set up when it comes to dating, because the reality is, as great of a guy as you are, and as great of a girl that she may have been, there are other people out there that would work for you and for her. And so to think that either of you would not want to possibly explore that during this breakup, which is indicating that you may never see this person again, is asinine at best. Continuing, the next question, he says, how soon after a break would that be cool? Same answer. Whenever you want to do it. I've broken up with women where sometimes it's taken me a couple of months before I go out with somebody else again, and sometimes it's taken me a couple of weeks. Does this mean that the feelings that I had for that person that I broke up with or that broke up with me were not real or were not strong? It doesn't mean that at all. What it means on my end of things is that I've been in the dating game enough to know that I have a very healthy outlook of, if it doesn't work out, then it just doesn't work out. If this other person is saying they want to break up with me, it's saying that for whatever reason, they don't feel like I'm their person, and I can be hurt about that, and I probably will be hurt about that. But ultimately, as humans, we are allowed to make the decisions that are going to be best for us. If she didn't feel like I was the best option for her, I'll be sad about it for however long I feel like I need to be sad about it, and then I'll start moving on. And if you have a healthy way of thinking about the dating game, it may not take you a long time. Well, guess what? If a girl breaks up with you and then goes out with somebody a week or two later and hooks up with them, that does not take away from the fact that she probably had very strong feelings for you and thoroughly and was it while in the relationship leading up to the breakup was overall having a good time and really like loved and cared for you. But it could also mean, especially for a lot of women, let's be honest, a lot of women at the point that they break up with you, they were probably starting to get tired of you like 3 to 6 months prior to that. So by the time most women break up with you, you're thinking it's so soon, it's so sudden. How could she just go out there, meet some other guy? But the reality is she was already losing feelings for you prior to the breakup. So by the time the breakup happens, she's already started going through the process of potentially grieving a once thriving relationship to where she might be able to go out on the town the next week and meet somebody new because she was already kind of tired of you when she got rid of you. I know guys don't want to hear that, but it's very true, okay? And so, yeah, you can go out there and hook up with somebody a week after, a day after, heck, an hour after if you want to. Like, ultimately, you can do what you want. Now, again, this goes back to the thing I said earlier about people getting in their feelings about, well, they shouldn't have done this thing. Or, girl come to you and say, how could you hook up with somebody a week after this and that? Again, like I said earlier, this goes back to ego. And you really have to get off the high horse of thinking that if this doesn't work out, she should be set to a time limit of how long she can't hook up with anybody else before she goes out there and meets somebody else. That way you can feel good about how much the relationship actually meant to her. That's not realistic, guy. The reality is she could have had all the feelings in the world for you and dumped you and spent a week crying her eyes out about it. And then she goes out and she's crying and crying. And then some guy comes along to console her. And then she sees him and realizes, oh my God, this is now the love of my life. That stuff can happen. Doesn't take away from you and her's relationship. But again, at the point that there's a breakup, you can't care about what she does because breakup means there's a good chance you guys are not going to get back together. And it's not right for you to try to hold her emotions hostage and hoping that, well, yeah, she broke up with me, but like she needs 2 months to realize that I'm actually the real guy she needs to be with, so she'll come back to me. That's not realistic. Now, I have written a book called 10 Ways to Get Back with Your Ex. I think that's the title of it. But you can go to my Introvert Dating Success store. Just go to the website and click on the products tab. It'll take you right to the store. You can see the book in an audio book or whatever like that. Where I actually take you through the 10 effective steps to be able to try to get your ex back. But the first thing that I say in that is like, don't overreact when she breaks up with you. And part of that means don't be getting butthurt if she hooks up with other people. Because when she does the breakup, she's not thinking she's getting back with you. She's thinking, this isn't a tactic to try to get him back. I'm realistically in my head right now done with this guy, and I got to move on. And you can't fault somebody for making moves with other people while they were broken up with you because they were trying to do that in an attempt to move on. And maybe in the process of doing that, they realize, I'm hooking up. I hooked up with this other guy, and you know what? It's not the same. It's not the same feel in the bed. It's not the same connection as I had with this previous guy that I was with. Let me go back to this guy and see if we can work it out. Sometimes women go through that and have to go through that in order to realize how much they care about you. Now, at the point that she comes back to you, the worst thing you could then do is be like, but you hooked up with her right after. Oh my God. Because if you're taking her back, then what you're recognizing is that there was a break and that during that break time, you guys could do whatever and you're not going to browbeat her over the head with that because she really thought it was over. All right, continuing. He asked, how would it affect the relationship if you do get back together with that person? Well, here's the thing, guy, right? Because in that video the previous video I made, I talked about how you don't want to be holding over her head that she potentially hooked up with somebody else during the break, all right? So here's my thought on this, okay? You don't take it with a grain of salt. This is my thoughts, right? Is that unless she comes back with an STD or she comes back pregnant, or she's still trying to keep her exes in the background that she hooked up with while you guys are broken up. If she's not doing, if none of those things have happened, then it should not affect the relationship. You guys are broken up. If you make the conscious decision to get back with this woman, knowing that you guys are on a break, you have to assume that during that break time, there's probably a good chance if she was anywhere near above average pretty, she probably hooked up with somebody else, at least one or two other people. That probably happens. So already have in your mind, any woman that breaks up with you and you take back, during that break, she probably hooked up with other people. Just have that in your head. Just know that it probably happened, all right? Because you have to go in knowing that A, she's probably not going to want to discuss it, and B, it probably happened. If you decide to take her back, having the knowledge in your head already that she probably hooked up with other guys, then you can't browbeat her with it later, knowing in your head that you already took her back, knowing this probably happened. Now, if you're the kind of guy that's like, but Harry, I don't want to take my girl back if she hooked up with other people during the break, then you are not going to be in the business of taking back any woman ever that broke up with you, because most of them are probably not sitting at home crying over you and just staying inside like a hermit for 6 months, hoping that maybe eventually I'll get feelings back for this guy. That's not realistic. That's not happening. What's more likely happening is during your guys' break, she's probably hooked up with a couple of people. So if you can't handle that, then just don't take exes back. Okay? Because that's going to be a realistic the probability of that happening during a break is very, very high. All right? Continuing, he then asked, how could sex be a deep thing to just give to the next guy that's only known you for a couple of weeks versus the guy that you've been with, and how it would affect him? Well, again, you can't assume with a breakup that you two are getting back together. Which means you can't also assume that when she came to you and said, I want to break up, that she assumed she would ever get back with you. She was doing the things that she needed to do in hopes of moving on from you. If that didn't happen, but she still managed to do those hookups, then again, that goes back to, can you realistically handle the idea that during the breakup, your girl was probably hooking up with other people when she wasn't actually your girl? If not, then get over it, because while she's doing that, she's not thinking about how it's going to affect you because she broke up with you, and she's not thinking it's going to affect your guys' dynamic in any way because she's not thinking of taking you back. If you give her the space and time to where she realizes, hey, you know what, I do want to take this guy back, again, you cannot browbeat her over the head with, but you did this thing and how can it affect me and I'm so hurt, because that's just your ego. That is your ego saying she should have been celibate the whole time that we were broken up, and she should have been thinking about me nonstop, and that's just not realistic in a breakup. In a breakup, people are trying to move on, and sometimes in the process of that, they might hook up with other people thinking it's going to help them to move on. And I've gotten messages from guys too saying, you know, I broke up with this girl, and then I went and hooked up with somebody else, hoping it would help me get over her. It didn't work, so I wanted to go back to her, and now she feels some kind of way. And I'd give the woman the same advice, which is, you guys broke up, whether he did it or you did it. So if you are going to take this other person back, you got to understand that comes with some things sometimes that may include that they hooked up with other people. And you have to know yourself. You can't handle it, don't do it. If you think you can, or if you agree, in spite of me not being able to handle it, I'm going to take them back, then you cannot say crap, okay? Unless they're trying to keep that guy in the background, or they got pregnant by him or whatever, then if you guys get back together and she's like, you know, I hooked up with these other guys, but they're completely out of the picture, I'm not keeping them on my friends list, I'm not talking to them on DMs, etc., then she's already done all she needs to do to prove to you that she's not hanging on to these other guys. If she's doing all that and you're still like, but then you did blah, 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 you're a whiny little punk and you don't need to get back with the girl. That's just real talk. Like, we're grown up, all right? So if you don't like the idea, then don't get back. If you're wanting to take her back, then you can't hold that over her head. And also during a breakup, you should be hooking up with other people too. Like, you shouldn't be sitting there waiting, expecting that she's going to change her mind, because the reality is most times either they don't change their mind, or if they do, they come back, and then the same problems arise again, and then another breakup happens, all right? But you can't let women also hold over your head that you may have had your own hookups during a breakup, because especially if she broke up with you, you definitely had no idea if she was going to come back or not. And so for her to hold that over your head is also not fair, all right? Ultimately, guys, it's this, all right? Is that whether you hook up with people during a break or she hooks up during a break, the word break indicates that you guys were not going to get back together, so you can't be at fault, nor should you hold a woman at fault if she decides to do what she wants to do. As in terms of this guy's question, where it's like, how could sex be such a deep thing, and then she's trying to come, she just gives it away to somebody else. Sex can be a deep thing. It can also be a fun thing that you need because you need that release. And yes, guys, just like we need our release, sometimes single woman out there, she breaks up with you, she's been sad for weeks on end, and she's like, I just need to have a fun night. And she goes out and she meets somebody, and it ain't about deep feelings or whatever. It's just she's horny and wants to get her rocks off, just like that happens to us sometimes, all right? So if that happens, it doesn't mean that she's necessarily trying to be a loose woman or that that you guys' connection wasn't deep enough or whatever. It just means she wanted to get out of her head and have her body experience some fun things, and you guys were not together, so she had to find somebody else who was a willing participant, all right? But again, if you can't handle that, don't take her back. Very, very simple, all right? So hopefully this answers that question. If you guys have more questions about that particular subject, you can leave it down in the comments below. If you guys, or you can also write me by going to the website and click on the contact tab as well, all right? Now also guys, go to the website and check out my Introvert Dating Success Coaching Academy. This is where we give you the ins and outs of how to meet, greet, attract, and land women, preferably the girls of your dreams. And you can also sign up for one-on-one coaching with yours truly, where I can help you with any situation you're going through. I love talking about these things, and I love giving you insights to better your dating life, all right? Thank you guys for watching. I'm Harry Wilmington. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
You need to call her on her cell phone when you want to ask her out. Don't text her from your cell phone. Her hearing your voice helps out, but you say you prefer